Hello, friends, and welcome to Weekly Witness, Texas Impact's weekly podcast designed to help mainstream Texans of faith understand the legislative process and help you engage with public policy in the great state of Texas. My name is Scott Atnip, your host and Texas Impact's Director of Public Witness, and I know there's a lot going on in the world. Government shutdowns that put Americans' livelihoods at risk, speeches, statements, and actions from government leaders that threaten democracy and try to pit Americans against each other as enemies. It's a sad and dangerous time. But it's a time that calls out for people of faith to stand up and speak out, but also to remind our broader communities that we are not enemies, that we are called to be neighbors and to love our neighbors. We need to speak out against efforts to divide us and model behaviors that seek to unite. To quote former President Obama, we are not as divided as our politics suggest. But in an increasingly polarized media landscape, it's hard to know where to get good quality information, besides the obvious places like Texas Impact. And I think that's why it's especially important that we promote religious media that's grounded in faith and holding itself to a higher standard. There are many good religious media outlets, but this week we're talking with Mark Wingfield, who serves as Executive Director and Publisher of Baptist News Global. This is his second stint working as a journalist, having worked in print journalism for 21 years before becoming the associate pastor of longtime Texas Impact partner Wilshire Baptist Church in Dallas for nearly 17 years. We talk about the role religious media plays in the current landscape and the issues he thinks deserve the most attention. I hope you enjoyed this week's conversation with Mark Wingfield. Joining us for the conversation is Mark Wingfield, Executive Director and Publisher of Baptist News Global. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
So I'm really excited for this conversation this week. We want to talk a little bit about religious media and the special place that you hold in both the media and the religious landscape. So I guess let's start with you. Talk to us about your history and your history with specifically religious media, and talk to us in that answer about Baptist News Global.
Sure. Well, I was a journalist covering religion for 21 years in the first part of my career, and then I became a pastor for 17 years. I was the executive pastor of a large Baptist church here in Dallas. Never thinking I would be a journalist again. And then 5.5 years ago, had the opportunity to come in and run Baptist News Global, which was a news service I had helped found 30 years prior. And again, here I am again. And this weirdest thing happened in those 17 years in between, and that's called the internet. It just changed everything in the way journalism is done. And so it's been a fascinating thing, and I'm loving it. So journalist, pastor, journalist, and it all works out, I think, for the good.
Love that. And you're certainly doing some good work. Talk to us about Baptist News Global. What kind of sets it apart?
Yeah, so I like to say Baptist News Global is not just for Baptists anymore. We have a problem with our name. It's our heritage. It's where we came from, but we're so much more than that today. We were founded out of the schism in the Southern Baptist Convention in 1990. But over time, and again, the internet changed everything because through the internet, we became a direct to the reader source, which we are now. All of our content's free, no paywall on anything. And we are covering lots of content, about 40 original articles a week that we post. They're news, opinion, analysis that cover religion, politics, culture, faith, immigration, LGBTQ stuff. All of the things that your listeners are going to care about, we are deep in every week from a variety of sources. Now, we're going to be center-left in our editorial perspective on that. We're going to be straight down the line center on our news coverage, if anyone believes any of that stuff anymore, right? That's where we aim to be. But I tell people we represent the progressive side of Protestant Christianity.
Love that. Love all of that. It's interesting that you talk about news and trying to be centrist or going down the center with the news. Talk about the importance of that in this landscape right now, and maybe the important role that religious media has in the landscape, which is so crowded.
Yeah. So again, from my first life as a journalist to my second life as a journalist, this is one of the hugest changes I've noticed. And it's made possible by the internet, because now Everybody has a blog. Everybody has a podcast. Anybody can say anything they want on social media and be taken seriously or not. And it's not just a matter of professional journalists telling you this is what happened, and this is what he said, this is what she said, and so forth. The landscape has completely changed on that. And who you trust, who you listen to. I have a huge problem with Fox News, but they're not the only problem anymore. There's 100 other problems out there with people who appear to be legitimate, and particularly in the religion space, there are multiple people online who claim to be journalists. And if you can see me, I'm doing air quotes around this word with my fingers right now, who claim to be journalists who are really just advocates for a particular cause, and most often for the far right. And they claim to be journalists, but they're really not. They're agenda driven in what they're doing. And that is just a totally different thing. But people soak this stuff up. And sadly, some of these people get book deals and have success on the speaking circuit as well, which is not helpful to anything. So all of this has changed so dramatically. The way people get news about religion, politics, faith, culture, all these things. And then on top of that, you just have this overall generalized distrust in the media that's been sown by Donald Trump and his minions, as I like to call them. And there's an agenda behind that as well. And we all suffer from that.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you were a pastor, and I guess I should say you are a pastor. I don't think you ever give up that calling or give that
I'm
up.
still ordained. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you need a funeral, call me, please.
Love that. I'm hoping I don't need those services for anybody anytime soon. Knock on wood, all the things. Talk to us about how that role shapes the way you cover the news, shapes the way that you go about your work.
So I am a much better journalist today than I was my first time around, because of the 17 years as a pastor, because I have a lot more compassion. I have a lot more empathy. I know those are bad words in some quarters, but I understand a lot more of the human condition because of the things I've done. I also understand the way the church works more. And so I come to this with a much more reasoned approach than the ideologue approach that maybe I had my first time around. My call to journalism actually happened by watching an episode of the old TV show Lou Grant, where he's this hard-hitting editor of a daily newspaper. And that was where I literally heard the voice of God telling me I was to be a journalist, and otherwise I was going to be a musician. And so I'm rooted in this desire to make a difference in the world. And I just know a lot more about how to do that now because of having spent 17 years in the church.
Do you feel like it brings a little bit more pressure in your journalism work to make sure that you are, I don't know, make sure that you're right, that you're fair? Do you feel any of that?
Of course, we want to be right and fair always. I think to some people, the pastoral experience gives some additional credibility, but to other people, it's the exact opposite. They're more suspicious of me because I think I probably have a church agenda. And, I still attend the same Baptist church in Dallas that I was served on staff of. And back years ago, we had to do all this marketing stuff I was involved in. And we came around to say we're a different kind of Baptist church, because in Dallas, you hear Baptist church and you think Robert Jeffress or Jack Graham. And we're the polar opposite of that. And so we have the same thing at B&G. We're a Baptist. I love when people say, after they read one of our articles, I can't believe I read that on a Baptist news service.
Yeah, fair enough. So I also wonder, how has working in this role, how has your journalism role over the course of the last few years changed how you see your religion, changed how you practice your religion?
It's a crisis. I woke up this morning thinking about this. I, like many of my peers, have been having a crisis of faith that started with the COVID pandemic. How can this be happening to us? I was so depressed in the first part of the pandemic because you just didn't know if you were going to live or die. And then you throw the Trump administration on top of that, and the MAGA movement, and the second coming of that. And for someone like me, it's enough to, it's awful, right? I don't understand how the evangelical church has sold its soul for this bowl of porridge and cannot see what they've done. And not only that, they're doubling down. They're not willing to see it another way. And it's the most astonishing thing of my lifetime. And it causes me to question everything.
Yeah, I think that is one of the challenges. And thinking about my life and my role here, I have friends who are able to turn things off for a little while, and not something you can do. Certainly, you as a journalist or me in the advocacy space. And I think there is that challenge a lot of times that we do have to pay attention to all the craziness that's happening in the world around us. And so, like on one side, that's hard, and that does challenge faith and our understanding of religion and all of the things. But on the other side of that, at least in my work in the advocacy space, I get to see the people who are fighting the good fight, right, and who are showing up and who care and are energized, and so that gives me hope. I guess I don't know if you have places that you're able to find hope in the work as well.
Sure. The fact that our articles do so well and are read by so many people and inspire people and inform people. Yes, that's very encouraging. And I mean, look, I'm 63 years old. I'm still doing this. I plan to keep doing this because it's very energizing to be having some place to make a difference and to tell truth, and to provide a historical record of the truth, because there's gonna come a time when there's a majority of people who look back and say, my God, they had lost their minds in the 2020s. What on earth was going on with those people? And I want there to be a record that some of us dissented.
Yeah. Also, I keep hearing like 80 is the new 50. So plenty of time.
Okay.
So, I mean, you brought it up a couple of times. Let's talk about the current reality. Like, stuff is kind of going crazy throughout the world. Why is it especially important that religious media is playing a role right now in the midst of all of this?
Well, this is above all a religion story. Yes, it is a political story, but it is a political story that has its roots in religion. We would not be where we are in America today if you take out the religious component. Go back to Jerry Falwell, Pat Robertson, go back to the Scopes trial. All of these things work together over time to enable the rise of this authoritarian figure through the most astonishing means possible. I mean, we have someone who, in my opinion, fits the description of everything Christians ought to run from, who they instead have embraced as their golden God. And it is a story of biblical proportions in every way. But you cannot separate religion as the motivating force in this because of the animus toward abortion, toward gay people, toward women, and toward people who read the Bible differently than they do. There is no MAGA movement without religion.
Do you feel that religious media is rising to the moment right now?
No, because there's not many of us on the legitimate side of it. When I look around at people like me, at people like B&G, I saw my friend Liam Adams this week, who's the religion writer for the Nashville Tennessean. And Liam is absolutely one of the foremost religion writers in a secular daily newspaper anywhere today. And because the Tennessean is owned by Gannett, he ends up being the default religion writer for the whole USA Today system. They use his stuff nationwide as well. And he's based in a great place in Nashville. But 20 years ago, 30 years ago in particular, every major daily newspaper in America had a religion writer, a full-time religion writer. Those people are gone. I mean, there's just a handful left anymore. And so you're not getting the coverage that we used to get. And what happens as a result is, okay, there's a religion story, and someone who has no experience in covering religion is thrown into the lion's den to try to make sense of this and have nowhere to start. The advantage I have as a writer and an editor is I'm old enough and I've been around long enough that I've seen it all. I was present when it happened, and I don't have to go research it because I remember it, right? And so that's a real advantage that other people don't have because they lack context. And I gave a talk to a group a week ago where I said, in theological terms, what we're lacking today is systematic theology. The church is not bringing all of the different strains of theology together and interpreting them in the right way. They're down ditches and alleys on that. And the same is true politically. We've got to have someone who can pull back and give us perspective and context on that. How did we get here? Why are we here? Those are the things we're dealing with every day.
So how do we get back there? Is this tide turning where the work of religious media is declining, or is there a way to turn that tide and start moving it back the other direction?
Well, this is all economics and overall media trends, because daily newspapers are all dying. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution just announced a few weeks ago they're going to stop printing a paper edition entirely, completely digital. And then you have paywalls. And so people can't access stuff as freely. And there's much more segmentation in this. And so people turn to other outlets. They're turning to, bloggers and online stuff and TikTok. It's hard for me to actually understand this as an older guy, but, the youngest of our young adults and older teenagers are getting so much of their news from TikTok today. And it's just staggering. And it's so, I watch this stuff, and number one, it's oversimplified to a fault. And number two, it's often just wrong. But people have no discernment anymore. This is our biggest challenge, particularly when you deal with religion, because it's so easy for someone to say, the Bible says blah, blah, blah. And in fact, the Bible does not say that, but someone's got to challenge it.
So, we'll do shameless plugs at the end, but it is, what steps do you wish people who are listening would take to support religious media? Is it just find outlets like yours and contribute? Is it like, what do you wish people would do?
Yeah, we're a completely reader supported. We're an NPR model. We have no funding from any entity. We have a couple of small to mid-sized foundation grants. We have a small endowment that keeps us going, but everything else I fundraise for every year, along with doing all the other things. So it's those $25 and $50 contributions, just like your local public radio station, that keeps us going and allows us to do this on a very small budget. We're an $800,000 a year budget. It's just small, right? And yet we struggle to keep up with all of that along the way. So finding the reliable sources and supporting them, yes, that's very important, but also sharing their content. The greatest thing you can do for us is to, if you find something that's helpful to you on our site, share it. Put it on Facebook, put it on X, put it on Blue Sky, put it on TikTok, whatever. Share it by email with your friends. And unfortunately, we're in a moment right now where it is dangerous for people to do that. So all the Charlie Kirk stuff, we've been covering Charlie Kirk and, the effort to make him a Christian martyr, and to it's insane stuff. And we've been writing about how teachers are getting fired from their jobs for their social media posts, and other people are as well. And of course, everyone knows the Jimmy Kimmel saga in that. But people, they agree with our article, may find it helpful, but they can't share it anymore. And this is how free discourse, free speech is being shut down.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. I wonder if there are, I'm going to start to wind us up here. Are there any other things that you wish religious media was paying additional attention to right now?
So within religious media right now, there's a huge thread about sexual abuse and clergy sexual abuse. This is really important. And we're in that as well. We've got a series up right now, a new podcast series on serial sexual abuse at Camp Kanakuk in Missouri, for example. But that's only one small part of the story. The big abuse that's happening is the political abuse that's happening in the church every Sunday across America, where use this phrase, Christian nationalism has just sort of infused itself into everything, and it's ubiquitous in this. And I think anything we can do to help point that out and help people understand the difference is going to be really, really good.
I remember, I think it was our executive director, B. Moorhead, during the event that you and I were both at, a couple weeks ago, got asked the question, how do we combat Christian nationalism? And her response was, lift up the voices of people of faith who are doing it differently, who are
and there are people of faith who are doing it. There are a lot of us out there. We don't have the megaphone. And here's the example I give to help people understand this. If you've read any of the Left Behind series of books or seen the movies, or you've probably been influenced by them, those are so pervasive that people in the general population believe that this teaching about a rapture at the end of times is a commonly held Christian belief. And the reality is, it is not. It is a minority view. It is unique to American evangelicals. It's not held much of anywhere else in the world. And it's a newer idea. It's not historic Christianity, but those people are so loud and have such a big megaphone and have gotten the media going that they act like they have mainstream Christian theology when they don't. And this is what Christian nationalism is doing to us today.
Well, and so what's the cure? How do you lift up those voices? What advice do you have to
Truth telling, lots and lots of truth telling, just absolutely staying on top. And I have so many friends who are so discouraged. They say, I just can't listen to the news anymore. I can't read anymore. I need to just go somewhere quiet. And God bless you for that. I've been there. But you can't stay in that quiet place forever, because we've got to have you reading. We've got to have you informed. We've got to have you out there doing something. Greg Garrett, who is a professor at Baylor, who writes regularly for us, wrote a piece a couple of weeks ago. Greg is a white guy, the same age as me. We grew up very near each other in Oklahoma. He's very much in tune with the Black church and Black church history and the tradition of political influence from the Black church. And he wrote this column for us to say, it is now time for people like me to take to the streets. We've got to get out there. We've got to be seen. We've got to be heard. You got to get up off your sofa and stop lamenting and go do something.
And I would argue you need to get off your couch and you need to say some things, you need to do something, and you need to do all of that wearing your faith hat.
Don't lay it aside. Absolutely. It's like, I have a group of friends here in Dallas, and these people who have been protesting every Monday morning at the ICE office. And they're just there as a witness to say, we're people of faith, and this is not what we believe. We do not support this.
Yeah. Amen. We appreciate all those people who are doing all that work. Mark, we really appreciate you and all the work that you're doing. Any shameless plugs you want to leave us with today? I know you've hit a couple throughout.
You can find us at baptistnews.com. All of our content's free, no paywalls, baptistnews.com. Google my name, Mark Wingfield. You'll find a lot out there. I am not the jazz guitarist from London. I'm the other Mark Wingfield. But there's a lot of good stuff out there.
You could have just claimed that, man. Like I write, I preach, I play guitar.
My kids are jazz musicians, but I'm not. Okay.
Love that. Mark Wingfield, thank you so much for the time. Thanks for your continued work. Everybody check out the website. Thanks again, Mark.
All right. Thanks.
All right, y'all, that was a fun one. Mark is certainly a character, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. I also hope it inspired you to get involved, to raise your voice as people of faith, and to support religious media. As always, Texas Impact has resources for you to do all the things we talked about, so check out the website, our Substack, and all of the social media channels, including the Ledge TV playlist on our YouTube channel, which is a great resource to help you share the story of what's happening. Spend some time on the Action Center page at texasimpact.org to find out how you can get involved. Sign up for a team, join the Texas Faith Votes campaign, and then invite all of your friends to join you. While you're on the website, I hope you'll take a moment to sign up to be a member of Texas Impact. Your membership supports this podcast and all of the work to engage Texans of faith to advocate for more just and equitable Texas. It's a very effective and affordable way to put your values into action. So with that, I think it's time to close out this episode. So remember, the world needs Texans of faith active and engaged. So let's get to work.
Weekly Witness is hosted by Scott Atnet, engineered and produced by David Fasalo. Our executive producer is B. Moorhead. The opinions expressed on Weekly Witness are those of Texas Impact and our guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views of our sponsors. Weekly Witness is a product of Texas Impact, people of faith working for justice. Visit us online at texasimpact.org.